Welcome to the Soul Archaeology podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello, welcome back to Soul Archaeology. And we are in the fire portal. Man, this energy has been wild, even more wild than I kind of anticipated, although I really have been just totally open to however this plays out, knowing, I tracked the astrology. I did my 2026 forecast workshop, really spent weeks, really probably months, sorting through the material of 2026 and kind of getting into the intricate weavings of each transit, each week, each month. And there's also the lived experience of astrology. So we can intellectualize it and talk about it as much as we want, but living it, living life, and viewing it through the lens of astrology is wild. I just really feel like we're living in such unprecedented times. I mean, I know we all probably feel that to a certain degree. And I mentioned last episode that, yes, most of this is unprecedented. And then there are also many things that are happening and repeating along the spiral of life as well, and just in manifesting in different ways. Humanity has faced these crossroads, these thresholds before. Of course, not in the same way, but so many different timelines felt that they were at the end of times. There were eras of human existence that were so incredibly dark. And they were almost always followed by these eras of light, like the Renaissance, like this expansion of consciousness that occurred after the plagues. Alchemy was birthed after a plague. I should say the practice of alchemy. And I often think of Charles Dickens and the beginning of A Tale of Two Cities that was set during the French Revolution, which was a time of great unrest. It was a time of intense paradox and extreme contradictions, wealth and poverty, and really highlighted the duality of this human experience. And interestingly enough, Pluto is at that point, the same point it was at during the French Revolution. And I just feel like this quote by Charles Dickens is so resonant with the times. And his book begins with, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way." And I just feel that resonance with the times, that we're meeting this edge where duality is fully exposed, where we can be in both hope and despair at the same time. And of course, we always can, but these poles are so heightened right now. We're in a time of incredible light and incredible expansion and incredible darkness and despair. And we always get to choose. We always get to choose what we participate in, what we plug into. It doesn't mean we have to always be in the light, always be in the hope. We need to dip in and be with and experience what we need to experience. If we're not in a time of crisis personally, if we are not in a war zone, if we aren't in a place where our lives are threatened, we get to choose. And that is a privilege. And with that privilege comes a responsibility. And it's not a responsibility to do what someone else thinks you should do or say what someone else thinks you should say. But it is a responsibility to honor your consciousness, your wisdom, your light, your awareness, to honor all of the work that you've done, to honor yourself, to honor those who have walked before us, to honor those who cannot. And that responsibility looks different for every single person. But as a conscious warrior, which I assume you are if you're here, our responsibility is to anchor and ground our wisdom, our knowledge, our light, our gifts, our power into physical form right now. To see through the distortion, to use our second sight with responsibility. And this does not mean it needs to look like everyone else. This does not mean you have to respond in the same way as everyone else or jump on the bandwagon or say something because you're being pressured to say something or do something because someone's telling you you're only a good person if you do it this way. Absolutely not. You have to find your own specific, unique blueprint of service. And it could be very simple and it could be very large, and they're both needed. This podcast is not a place to tell you what to believe or what to do. I am simply providing information. And this is a space where you get to digest it. You get to pull it through your own truth channel. And I trust that you can do that and that it feels good for you. And if it doesn't feel good, that you'll toss it out the window and let it go. Take what resonates, leave what does not. And I'm so glad that you're here. With those words written by Charles Dickens ringing in my consciousness, I do believe that we are headed into, if we're not already in, which I kind of sense that we are already in, a golden age of humanity, which is a time of great expansion, great illumination, great conflict and challenge and grit and discomfort. It is meant to be uncomfortable because the light, the extra light that's entering the planet is illuminating the darkness, and we have to see it. We have to open our eyes to witness and integrate it, to digest it, because that is the shadow. And we don't only have shadow within us, we have collective shadow too. And what we're seeing right now on the world stage is the collective shadow. It's purging, it's coming to the surface, and we get to choose how we interact with that, just as we get to choose how to interact with our own shadow in our own personal work as well. This time is calling for each one of us to find our sovereignty, to find our own truth, to find our sameness and our oneness. This Aries and this Aquarian era that we're moving into is really about finding our sovereignty, finding our center, finding our sense of self, and then locating that within the greater whole without carrying the wounding and weight of the past with us. So Aries is sparking this initiation to access our own internal sovereignty and power and truth. And this layer of Aquarius is helping us to find new ways to apply that then to the systems, to creating new pathways, to dreaming bigger, innovating. It's hot right now. There's a lot of heat in the field. There's a lot of pressure and anger and desire to change something. I feel it so deeply. It's a lot of sympathetic energy, and when we meet sympathetic energy, we can either act and mobilize with it, or we can drop into a freeze, or even something like a collapse within our systems. I had someone who listens to this podcast regularly reach out with a reflection on what Neptune in Aries feels like. And I thought it was such a good point that I wanted to share, that we need to titrate our systems to this heat, to this sympathetic energy, to this mobilization. It might not feel safe for everyone's systems. And it's important to remember that we all respond to this energy differently. We are all wired differently. Some people are built with a lot of heat and fire in their charts, and that just works for them. They work really well under pressure. They like to work with heat. They like to work with anger. Some other people don't. And layered with our lived experiences, this can create an entirely different nervous system, an energy system. So for some people, heat doesn't feel safe. Anger doesn't feel safe. Pressure doesn't feel safe. And so we're all going to have to learn how to work with this new Aries energy in different ways. For some people, this might create a collapse or a freeze. For others, they might just be swimming in sympathetic energy until there's eventually a crash because you can't stay in sympathetic for long. That's why we have freeze patterns. So what we need to do, each and every one of us, is to find our own relationship with anger, with heat, with pressure, with this sympathetic energy. And then find the right conditions to let it move us, to let it mobilize us, to let it move through us and live and breathe and shape our experiences without destroying and burning everything down. You're going to hear a ton of bait-click astrology over the next few months. I'm already seeing it, eye rolls, and I'm not judging because I get it. Like, a lot of people have big accounts and they've grown big accounts because they're great at marketing and they're great at bait-click astrology. And yeah, I mean, a lot of our current transits can be tied back to times that were symbolic of deep rupture. And I've even talked about our ties to the Civil War timeline. And obviously I just brought up the French Revolution. So there are similarities here. There are similarities with Uranus's placement with World War II. So there are things that are significant and can illuminate potentials in the field. And astrology is nuanced. It's subjective. The transits apply to every person differently. And there's no point in creating extra fear. We are where we are, and we have the tools to move through it. Trust that. If there's anything I can say in this entire podcast that you take with you, trust that you know what you need, that you have the tools. You were born for this time. So this week, I mean, we're almost 15 minutes in and I'm just starting on this week, but there's a lot in the field. So I want to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence and resetting the energy every time someone lands here, because this is a space for you to land. Think of it as a container where you can just sit and rest, or a vessel where you can just rest. This week, we start with a full moon in Leo on the same day as Imbolc, which is a cross-quarter point between winter solstice and the spring equinox. It's a Celtic festival. And then on February 3rd, we have Uranus stationing direct in Taurus. And then on February 6th, we have Mercury entering Pisces, which starts a chain of personal planets entering Pisces. And February is one of the most significant months of 2026. You can find that information in my 2026 forecast workshop. I break down all of the transits, the major themes of 2026. There's a workbook. There is a forecast planner that you can work with monthly. It gives all of the major transits and journal prompts and how to work with the energy. And there's also a quantum healing journey within that workshop too. So you can find that in the show notes. It's a great place to feel more prepared as the energy begins to accelerate in 2026. And February is a major ignition point. Major. This month is wild. We're already in the eclipse window. I've talked about that in the last 2 episodes. And we have the stellium in Aquarius that's still active with Pluto. We have a full moon opposing all of this activity in Aquarius. We have Uranus stationing direct in Taurus. We know that our collective consciousness is expanding, even if it doesn't feel like it, even if it feels like everyone is regressing back to these primal tribal states of consciousness. our consciousness is still expanding. We hit edges and thresholds and things get ugly, things get messy, things get challenging and conflicting, uncomfortable. We are there. We are having a collective ego death, and it's not pretty. I've been talking about this for years, and I really feel so much for astrologers because we've been talking about some of these things for so long and just kind of talking into the void in some ways. It's felt like, even though I know there's been incredible people here, and I love you and I see you and I thank you, and I am not the only one. This is not just me, of course, and so many people have been feeling this, but we're just now starting to really see things take shape in the ways that we've been talking about it on a greater, wider scale. So it's going to be a wild time, and February is a big point. So I want to start first by talking about the full moon in Leo, and this episode actually comes out after the full moon in Leo, but I wanted to touch on it because I do think that it is going to linger into the beginning of this week and is significant as far as this entire Aquarian season. And the full moon in Leo is on February 1st at 2:08 p.m. Pacific at 13 degrees of Leo. And this is a balancing point between the mind and the heart. Full moons are when the sun and the moon are opposite one another. So there's this rebalancing that happens of two opposing forces. The sun, which is consciousness and light, is fully illuminating the moon, our inner landscape, our emotional body, our inner world. This means emotions are heightened. So much is revealed, the things that we can't see on a day-to-day basis. We might feel, even unconsciously, but we're not always thinking about perhaps or aware of what it is. So it's a revealing time. It's an illuminating time. It's when our subconscious is revealed. The veil thins. We can see what's subterranean and beneath the surface more easily. It's also confronting, but liberating, because now at least we know what to work with. The Leo Aquarius axis is currently highlighted. So it's individuality, self-expression, individuation, belonging, courage, identity, heart versus the mind. This moon is ruled by the sun, the ego. And Leo is about developing a healthy relationship with our ego, our embodiment of our human self in this lifetime. It's really about honoring the true self. Leo rules the 5th house. It's the moment consciousness realizes, I'm alive. Not who am I to others, but what animates me from within. Leo rules the heart, circulation, warmth, the ego, the animating spark that keeps us engaged with life. And under this full moon, we're going to see where that spark has perhaps gone dormant or been withheld or been negotiated away, which so often happens, been suppressed in order to belong or stay safe. This is really a reckoning with aliveness. And with this full moon landing on the same day as Imbolc, this is a return of heat, of light, of movement, of expression. Imbolc is the moment when the light begins to return to the body of the earth. It is the halfway point between winter solstice and the spring equinox. So we're not fully emerged yet, but it's beginning. And we've been in this massive freeze across the US. I haven't here in LA, but many people I know have across the US. There's been a lot of freeze in the field as well, within our nervous systems, not knowing what to do with this heat, with this sympathetic, activating energy. So this full moon is trying to melt something. We can feel something is warming, something is stirring, something is asking to be tended. This fire within, this self-expression, this light, this love, this sacred fire. And it's looking at where are we channeling this fire in ways that are not actually authentic? Where are we seeking validation instead of truth? Where are we performing instead of feeling? Where are we letting our emotions consume us? Where are we confusing visibility with worth? Where are we hiding our light, our brilliance to avoid rejection? Where are we afraid to speak or to move out of fear of abandonment? Are we moving from the wound, or are we moving from the heart? Are we abandoning self in order to belong? There's a lot of pressure here to belong. We have this stellium in Aquarius. There's like this need to be a part of something. What is real and true for you within that? This full moon is truly a recalibration of the heart, a return to the heart, a return to truth and authenticity and honest reflection and expression. There might be moments over this next week to kind of glimpse and see where your own unique presence is required. We have these movements happening all across the globe, and where do you land within that? That's what this Leo moon is illuminating. Leo and Aquarius are it's the axis of self and the axis of the group or the community. Aquarius is way on the far side where it is the community, it is the greater whole. And Leo is on the other side saying, well, I am the self. So how do we balance that? Is it about us or is it about the greater whole? Can it be both? What does that look like? These are questions we'll be navigating as Pluto moves through Aquarius over the next 20 years. And with Imbolc and this full moon at the same time, there's heat here. And there's a lot of fire, and there's a lot of anger, and there's so much to be met and dealt with and channeled. This is about slow emergence. We don't need to necessarily do everything at once right now. This is a long game. It might feel very urgent right now, and of course there are things that are urgent in the world at the moment. And what is the best way to build a sustainable new world? It doesn't happen overnight. So how do we channel this heat, this warmth, this desire to create something in sustainable ways of creation? How do we not let the ego run off with our anger and our urgency and this sympathetic energy? How do we let that simmer? Can we be okay with it just simmering there for a minute, cooking down, finding the best pathway, the most authentic and aligned pathway of action and change? Things are going to start melting even more. And I have said this before, but we are in a giant melting phase with Pisces, the era of Pisces ending quite literally. I mean, we're in a 2,000 year shift with the era of Pisces ending, but also Neptune and Saturn leaving Pisces. We're melting freeze. We're melting dissociation. We are coming back to the body. We're coming back to truth, to what's real. It's confronting. Like I said, when we have this sympathetic surge, there are a few pathways we can choose. We can either be with it and meet it if we have the right conditions and resources, or the other resource is a freeze or a collapse, because quite frankly, sometimes we don't have the right conditions, especially when we're young. So in this phase of melting freeze, it's important to just know not everything has to happen all at once. In trauma work, we digest small doable bits, and that's it. And that can be enough. So what is your small doable bit today? Or now, this moment? It doesn't have to be something that's big and overwhelming. It can be something so small. What right now would serve to create conditions for you to meet some of this heat? Maybe it's a walk. Maybe it's getting up and moving intuitively. Maybe it's screaming into a pillow. Maybe it's pushing up against a wall. Maybe it's laying on the ground. Maybe it's breathing intentionally. Find what works for you. But we're resetting the circulatory systems of our consciousness. We are resetting how the blood moves through us, how the information moves through us, how the heat, the pressure, the energy moves through us. This week, we also have Uranus stationing direct in Taurus. At the same time, it's square Mercury and Venus, and sextile Saturn and Neptune. Uranus is the planet of change, sudden change, transformation, awakening, innovation. It's always looking to innovate and to improve. It is fast though, and it doesn't wait for change. Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018. And I've talked a lot about this. I really go deep into this in the forecast workshop, but it's been reworking our relationship with safety, security, the body, finances, money, our roots, the body, earth, stability itself. So this week, with Uranus stationing direct for the last time in a while, we can expect sudden awakenings, these shifts in ideas, perspectives, relationships. We will likely see on a collective scale something shifting rapidly around money this week. I personally feel and intuit, this is not financial advice, and I quite frankly don't understand the financial system. I'm not a financial expert in any way, shape, or form. I know what I know, and that's about it, but I can just sense and intuit and feel that there is a massive overhaul of our financial system that's happening. And the way it comes to me when I see it in my third eye is that it's a system crumbling while a new system is emerging. So it's not that we have this void of a system or this total collapse and chaos that creates major issues, but there's a new system emerging that is going to be unusual and very different. And for those of us that don't like change, Uranus and Taurus is having us reckon with our relationship with change. And the next 10 years are going to bring change that is wild. Uranus moving into Gemini is the vehicle for the transformation. So Uranus is the vehicle. Uranus in Gemini is incredibly fast. It's incredibly expansive, and it deals with technology, the mind, information, communication. If we think about this time of accelerated change that I keep talking about over the next 10 years, Uranus is the vehicle for that. So Uranus is the technology that creates new ways. Uranus is the teleportation and the telepathy and the new systems that are built to facilitate this shift in consciousness. So with Uranus stationing direct in Taurus for the last time this round, it's going to shake things up. And I do believe that this Uranus and Taurus transit since 2018 has been shaking up our relationship, like I said, with money, security. It's been shaking up the financial systems. It's been shaking up land rights, our relationship with land and the earth, our relationship with money, our financial systems, values, resources, the body. So on a personal level, our values, our inner resources, our outer resources, our relationship with money, our relationship with the earth, with our body, with our nervous system, all of that is up. Wherever Taurus lands in your chart, for me, it's in my 7th house. So this is related to relationship and partnership and security within that. Wherever it lands for you will tell you where you're reckoning with change. Taurus does not like change. It's a fixed earth sign. It's about as adverse to change as it gets in the zodiac. Uranus here is shaking this up. So we have had to get comfortable with change. Think about what's happened since 2018. I don't know about you, but the world feels drastically different. I was sort of reminiscing about the years of 2016, 2017, 2018. So much was happening for me personally, but the world felt different. And everything has changed since then. And we're having to reckon with that, with what that brings up within us. This last push of Uranus in Taurus, April 25th, it shifts into Gemini. So this last push for the next few months is going to be destabilizing. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think it will be incredibly destabilizing for financial markets, global markets, land, actual resources like land resources. security, sense of safety. Like I said, you'll feel this most in wherever Taurus lands in your chart. So, and I will say this is a big week for fixed signs. We have a full moon in Leo. We have this Aquarius stellium. We have this shift of Uranus in Taurus, the stationing direct. So if you have fixed placements, you're going to feel this week more significantly. And right now, it's all going back to how do we interact with change? What is our relationship with it? There's no better time than now to befriend change, because change is going to be our constant companion over the next 10 years. It is going to be warp speed. And if we are resisting change, we're going to feel that resistance in our systems, and that resistance creates tension and conflict and disease. So whatever you need right now, whatever conditions you need to feel more safe, knowing nothing about what this future timeline looks like, our fear of change really is just quite literally a fear of the unknown. So when we really distill it down, it's that we're standing at the precipice of something we don't have any clue what it looks like. We've never been here before. Personally, on a soul level, I have a feeling we have at least something very similar, but on a human level, we've likely never been here before. So it might be a good time to really dive into some nervous system work, some recalibration of our relationship with change. This is exactly why I created my group mentorship. And the waitlist is open for that. You can sign up. It's going to be a really powerful group. And it was created to be a vessel and a container for this year, this stretch from 2026 to 2027, because I know and I can feel that there's going to be change like we've never seen before, and we're going to be meeting edges that will be challenging, incredibly expansive, but also challenging. So I created this container to be a vehicle and a vessel for this transformation, to meet these edges together, to be a part of a group, a community, to not feel isolated and alone when things start to transform rapidly. If you want to be a part of that, you can join the waitlist. This waitlist is for anyone who's interested. I'll be opening the page soon. I'll be opening the cart mid-February, so you can look out for that. I'm really excited to see how this group shapes up. It's going to be an amazing group. I can already feel it. I can feel each and every person in it. I just don't have the names for it yet. So if you join the waitlist, you get first dibs on the spots. So there are limited spots, not to create any sort of scarcity, because there's going to be room for everyone. I can feel it. There's no scarcity needed. However, if you're interested, the waitlist is best, because there will be an early bird special and people on the waitlist get that. So this week is big. And if you have fixed placements, just know there might be some jolts. There might be some big shifts. We're moving into a portal of accelerated change. I've said that a million times. You're probably sick of hearing it, but this eclipse season is going to be wild. We have our first eclipse on February 17th. It's a solar eclipse in Aquarius. And we're moving into some big energy. That's right around the time where Uranus and Neptune have their great conjunction as well at 0 degrees of Aries. So this is going to be a time of profound change. Uranus is going to be showing us and revealing where we have outsourced our sense of safety to systems, resources, structures that were never designed to hold true stability. Uranus in Taurus has been the great destabilizer of what we thought was solid. It's worked slowly and relentlessly, shaking the foundations of values, security, embodiment, survival. It's surfaced our relationship with money, land. Food was just disrupted so that deeper truth could really emerge. And now we are seeing the deeper truth emerging. I've been in this space really for the last 10 years where I've just seen so much disclosure. I think that's what an awakening looks like, right? And nothing shocks me, nothing surprises me anymore. I'm truly, fully and completely eyes wide open, not surprised by anything that happens. And I've had to work through how destabilizing that can feel on a nervous system level. And I think that's what Uranus and Taurus has been forcing us to work with, is what does it feel like to have the depths of our ego, the depths of our nervous system destabilized, so that we can build deeper systems and deeper roots into something that's true and authentic. Because we'll need that for this Uranus and Gemini era. So the card I pulled for this week is the Gazelle card, which I find so fascinating because when I think of gazelle, I just think of this light, fast animal. And it's all about change of direction. And it says, gazelle dances across the continental horizon, alert, light of foot, and vibrating with unopposed grace. His beauty is a spell cast upon the world. He approaches the environs with vigilance and protected by the safety of the herd. As one, they strive with confidence and bravery, surviving via telepathic innate communication. Gazelle's capacity for imaginative improvisation allows him to outsmart and outrun his predators. His name comes from the Arabic word ghazal, meaning love poem, and this light and fast animal is drawn to you when it's time to change direction. When manifesting a desired outcome, there are phases when progress is slow or altogether absent. Gazelle suggests that sometimes a solution comes through a sudden shift in perspective. A fresh and even drastically changed outlook offers great inspiration. Move decisively in a new direction, and you have the opportunity to fall back in love with your original vision. Gazelle is a love poem, spontaneous and full of heart. And as you begin to embody these qualities, there is room for unimagined possibilities to emerge. When it's balanced, you feel flexible in your process and agile. When it's imbalanced, you feel stagnant, lethargic, listless, and indecisive. To bring into balance, write a love poem to your vision. I love this because we definitely do, like I said, have some sobering happening. We're moving out of this more immobilized, sort of collapsed state of dissociation with Neptune in Pisces. Saturn is still in Pisces, but it's going to be moving over the next few weeks. So we get to make some moves soon. And that will feel good. And it can also feel very confronting. And we might feel some freeze coming up. So I do have spaces for private mentorship in the coming months, if that's something you're interested in. I also obviously have my group cohort as well. So I'm excited for that. And I would love to just hear from you. Let me know how you're doing. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. If you would like to support the production of this podcast, if you're a listener every week and you want to support in some way, I have a Substack. It's $8 a month. I do 2 posts at least per month and share more personally on there about my own process, what I'm feeling, what I'm moving through. It's a space to dive a little bit deeper even. I just did an annual perfections post, which is so fun because I love talking about that ancient system of astrology. So if you want more information about me personally, if you're interested, if you're not, I totally get it and it's fine. But if you do, you can join my Substack. It's $8 per month. It's also a way just to support this podcast. If you listen every week, I would love your support. And that is also linked in the show notes. So thank you for being here. Thank you for, as always, sharing with family, friends. Sharing on social media helps so much. It spread the word. Take what resonates and leave what does not. Sending you so much